Order. Question number 6, Catherine Delahunty. Order.
I'm not going to start.
Catherine Delahunty.
Thank you. Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Kia ora te whare paramata. To the Minister of Education, kia ora. Does she agree with Massey University Education Professor John O'Neill that students' home background, including factors like transience, dysfunction and lack of resources, were responsible for up to 80% of a child's school success?
The Honourable Hikia Parata.
Mr Speaker, I do not agree with Professor O'Neill. What I do agree with is the OECD study in 2012 involving over 500,000 15-year-olds from 65 countries, of which one was New Zealand. In fact, 5,000 students from 177 schools in our country participated. That OECD study found that 18% of the difference in student achievement can be accounted for by socio-economic factors. That means that 82% of student achievement is not statistically explained by socio-economic factors. The other factors that collectively had a much greater impact on student achievement included the quality of teaching, performance expectations, school leadership, and positive relationships between parents and teachers that focus on learning. And that is why, as a government, we have focused on those factors.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Catherine Delahunty.
Does the Minister agree with the OECD experts that what a child brings to school is more than just their parents' income, but also access to books and a warm, healthy home in which their family is secure?
The Honourable Hikia Parata.
Mr Speaker, by definition, without the assistance of the OECD, kids bring to school their background.
Supplementary question? Supplementary question, Catherine
Supplementary
Delahunty.
question. If her review of the Education Act is focusing on rewarding those schools already doing well, what does she say to low decile schools whose students routinely turn up hungry and sick and not in the best state for learning?
The Honourable Hikia Parata.
Mr Speaker, the member's just wrong. There are schools that are in different deciles that do very well, and there are schools in those same deciles that aren't doing well. What I'm proposing in the Act is for those who aren't doing well, whatever decile they are in, that we have tools to intervene early so we can help them to be turned around, to be successful for every child.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Catherine Delahunty.
Does she really think that a child who is hungry all day at school and who has no books at home has the same chance of doing well as a child with plentiful books at home and a lunchbox full of food?
The Honourable Hikia Parata.
Mr Speaker, and that's why this government introduced for the first time in 43 years an increase in benefits for those families living in hardship, $790 million. That is why we have invested in breakfast in schools for every school that wishes to take advantage of it. That is why we are targeting resource to those who need it most. This government has a very strong social investment approach, and we're using it to target those most at risk.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Catherine Delahunty.
I appreciate the Minister's answer, but my
Can I have the point of order, please?
Has the same
Order.
chance of doing
Order.
well? She didn't answer that question.
Order. Can I just invite the member to study standing orders and Speaker's ruling? And if she had the time to do so, would she look at 1957, which states when the member seeks an opinion, as she did in that question, which was, does she really think, etc., it invites a very wide type answer, which definitely addressed the question. It may not be an answer the member's happy with, but it addressed the question as the question was asked. If the member wants to sharpen up her questions, get sharp, straight questions, then I can assist. But it's when a question that was just asked is delivered that way, the answer given certainly satisfies Speaker's rulings. Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. How can she claim that students' socio-economic background doesn't impact on their educational chances when the vast bulk of support for students with special needs receive for their NCEA exams is going to students with the wealthiest parents, and after 4 years as Minister of Education she still hasn't done anything to fix the problem?
The Honourable Hiki Parata.
Mr Speaker, the member clearly didn't understand the answer I gave. I didn't say that socio-economic status doesn't have an impact. I disagreed with the 80% that member alleged and referenced an OECD report which said it was 18%. So yes, it certainly does have an impact. It is one of the variables that is target, but it is not the only one.
Question number 7. Order.